Now, this is going to be a much more casual video compared to my regular ones, more of a podcast style video, kind of more off the cuff, which I do like to do from time to time because, yes, as boring, and I think I've said this multiple times actually, as boring as the title battle has been in Formula 1 on track, off track, the sport has been almost inversely as crazy with crazy driver announcements, controversy every single month, Sainz out, Ollie Behrman in, things like that, just constantly stuff going on in Formula 1. So yeah, say what you want about how boring the title battle is, but Formula 1 never disappoints when it comes to making headlines. And yet again, even before, I literally, as I sat down to just, kind of chat about Adrian Newey or chat about this situation, Nico Hülkenberg has been announced to go to Sauber in 2025. So I don't have too much to say about that. I recently did a video about Sauber, literally yesterday I think I put it out. So yeah, definitely go and check that out. But the big news, of course, and I should say it's speculation. I kind of want to make sure that I underline that word at this point, is that Adrian Newey is set to leave Red Bull at the end of the season. Now, again, the two big things about that is that number one, it is just speculation. So yeah, that's kind of, again, very important to say. And also, all of the reports very clearly say that he's not retiring, that he is just leaving Red Bull. And of course, that opens the possibility of him moving to yet another team on the Formula 1 grid. Now, maybe there are quite a few newer fans that don't quite know who Adrian Newey is, and he is undoubtedly the greatest car designer in Formula 1 history. His role has changed actually quite a lot over the years, from Williams to McLaren to Red Bull, but the simple fact is, when it comes to Adrian Newey, his stats speak for themselves. Now, don't kind of quote me on this statistic, but I am pretty sure that Adrian Newey is the most successful individual in Formula 1 history, more than any other driver, more than any other engineer, more than any other designer, and more than any other team principal. As to date, he has won 25 drivers and constructors championships across 3 different teams and also across 4 decades. So, you can imagine the versatility of this man across all of these regulation periods, across different engine and aero formulas. And let's be honest, by the end of 2024, it's going to be 27 titles, isn't it? Red Bull are going to wrap up the Drivers and Constructors Championship this year. So, yeah. If you're kind of a newer fan and are wondering why Adrian Newey is such a big deal, 27 Drivers and Constructors titles combined. Yeah, the numbers speak for themselves. Now, it must be it's very important to point out that he isn't the technical director at Red Bull right now. That is Pierre Vacher. So at the moment, Newey is the chief technical officer. He's more in a periphery role at Red Bull at the moment, but obviously still a massive figure. He also does some stuff on the road car side with some other companies, and a lot on the technology side as well. So yeah, he's definitely more of a peripheral member on the technical department. But listen, when it comes to Adrian Newey, he is still a massively important person in terms of what it is about him and what it is about his expertise and what makes him so special. It isn't just his ability on the drawing board, and he's one of the last dinosaurs, let's say, that actually still uses a drawing board. It's actually his ability to look at a set of regulations, look at a set of parameters that's set out by Formula 1, and to figure out where the main areas of performance opportunities are going to be. That is where his ability and genius really lies. In 2009 and 2010, it was all about the exhaust blowing. That was kind of that era of Formula 1 cars. In 2017, with the wider cars, even though they weren't winning championships, it was all about the high rake concept. And what I've always found kind of fascinating about that wider cars period is that even though Mercedes dominated that era, every single team, apart from Aston Martin, who obviously, copied Mercedes' concept, apart from Mercedes and Aston Martin, every single team went into Red Bull's direction, despite the fact that they weren't winning championships. So yeah, it just shows how kind of influential Red Bull's concept was, even though they weren't challenging Mercedes, for championships at the time. And then obviously in 2022 onwards, it's been all about the suspension and floor and how those two interact to create a stable platform. So that is where Newey's genius really lies, in finding those, not necessarily loopholes, but those performance opportunities that basically every single team then has to try and copy once Red Bull are able to figure them out. So having said all of that, why is Adrian Newey potentially thinking of leaving, especially at a time when, we have seen Ferrari dominance, we have seen Mercedes dominance, But what Red Bull are doing now, they are genuinely groundbreaking. They are setting new standards in terms of, on the driver side, consistency, reliability, and just margin over the rest of the grid. I mean, even someone like Sergio Perez, who isn't as good as the likes of Hamilton or Russell or Norris or Leclerc, you know, he is getting on the podium at a canter every single race. So it just shows you how dominant their car really is. And you know, during this period, he is choosing to leave. I mean, Red Bull had the most dominant car in F1 history last year, won every single race all bar one, 21 out of 22, and Newey is now deciding to leave, potentially. Now, there's no doubt that has to do with the political divide at Red Bull, also linked with the Horner situation, the controversy at the beginning of the year, where he was linked to some sexual harassment and things along that nature. Obviously, Horner in the end was cleared, but I think it's very, you know, again, all of the reporting has said that hasn't quite stood right with Newey. You know, something isn't quite right with the Horner situation, and how that has splintered into the political divide at Red Bull is what has really annoyed Newey the most, because now, you know, in the old days, the reason why Newey joined Red Bull in the first place is because he does not like political unrest. That is why he left Williams in the first place, because the likes of Frank Williams and also Patrick Head started to make decisions behind his back and not tell him about it. He was extremely frustrated about that, so he left for McLaren. And then that's why, in the end, he left McLaren as well, because under Ron Dennis, it basically became you're either behind Ron Dennis or you're out of the team. You know, it became basically that kind of corporate mentality, and Newey felt that he was really boxed in at McLaren, and that's why he left for Red Bull. Because Red Bull in the mid-2000s, let's not forget, Red Bull were not a big manufacturer. They weren't a software company. They weren't a hardware company. They were an energy drinks company. You know, when they came into Formula One, they were seen as a massive kind of, you know, they were seen as the Mavericks in Formula One, but it was very apolitical at the time. You know, Dietrich Mateschitz, he was the one that controlled, you know, Red Bull Racing and kind of, you know, protected the team from any politics. And then on the ground, it was very simple. It was Christian Horner as the team principal running the race team, Helmut Marko running the young driver program, and Adrian Newey designing the cars. That is it. No politics, no political unrest, nothing like that. And unfortunately, as Red Bull has grown, as they have expanded into different companies and things along that nature, it has now become very political, especially at the beginning of 2024, despite their success. I mean, you have Christian Horner after, you know, all of those allegations and that still being very murky, and obviously Newey not being quite happy with that. You know, he has the Thai family behind him, the Yavidia family. You also have the Austrian side with Oliver Mintzlaff, and then you also have Helmut Marko almost on a completely different side as well. And something that I have never seen before, Max Verstappen, their star driver, also getting involved in the political battle as well. You know, in Jeddah, I thought the statements he made were remarkable. I mean, you know, when it came to Horner and all of those allegations, he was very, you know, towing the company line, basically. Yeah, and, you know, it doesn't have too much to do with me. I just focus on the racing. But when there was even a hint that Helmut Marko might leave Red Bull, Max was like, no. You know, if he goes, I go. My loyalty is with Marko. So, yeah, even Max was kind of getting involved in the political side, and clearly that has been the reason why he doesn't feel happy. You know, he doesn't like this kind of environment. He has never liked this kind of environment, and, you know, he's had all of the success, and so that's potentially why, you know, he is leaving Red Bull. That's what all of the reports have said, and that, you know, knowing his history, that would not surprise me. In terms of when he would leave is a completely different matter, because he is contracted until the end of 2025. Red Bull, they will fight tooth and nail if he is leaving to keep him for as long as possible, or to make sure that his gardening period is as long as possible as well, because yeah, that could be almost a different controversy by itself. So we'll see how all of that plays out, because, you know, if he kind of takes his contract all the way till the end, and that's what Red Bull would want him to do, the earliest that he could start working again at any other team is 2027, you know, in the second year of the brand new reg. So yeah, that's going to be a kind of a tangled situation that's potentially going to have to be unraveled, and is going to be its own controversy, no doubt about it. Given the fact then that he is not choosing to retire, or at least that's what the reports are all saying, that does open the possibility of him going to another team. Now, of course, teams like Audi with their brand new driver, Nico Hülkenberg for 2025, yeah, we'll see obviously how that turns out, and even Mercedes, I'm sure all of them are going to want Adrian Newey, but undoubtedly the two big kind of opportunities that we know have definitely reached out to Adrian Newey, at least according to reports, are Aston Martin, even though they have denied it. I should point that out, but let's be honest, of course they're going to deny it, but where there is smoke, there is usually fire. And Ferrari as well. Now, Ferrari have been hiring big, especially with John Elkann, and we know actually that Ferrari definitely tried to go after Pierre Vacher, the technical director at Red Bull. So yeah, getting Adrian Newey is almost potentially even better, let's be honest, even though obviously Pierre Vacher is the actual technical director. He's much more hands-on compared to Newey at the moment. So yeah, Ferrari and Aston Martin are probably the two most likely scenarios. Obviously very different geographically. You know, Newey, he's always worked in the UK, whether that was with Williams or McLaren or Red Bull. You know, Aston Martin is kind of in a weird way a sideways step, so he's able to have his life in the UK remain exactly where he is and kind of continue that. Ferrari would be a little bit different, depends on what the, you know, working situation would be, whether he would have to move to Maranello or work from home or, you know, travel, whether he would be comfortable with that, whether that's the life that he wants. Again, I'm sure that's gonna play a massive factor actually in his decision. And we do know, actually, he said this in Beyond the Grid, which I found amazing, is that one of his regrets in his career is that he never got to work with Ferrari and that he never got to work with great drivers like Lewis and Fernando. So he does see the appeal of Ferrari and those two drivers as well, you know, kind of greats of their era. And obviously with Ferrari, there is also the hypercar opportunities as well. We know that Newey loves to work kind of up, as much as he loves, you know, Formula One, he also loves those kind of side projects, the car projects that like he did with Aston Martin and Red Bull with the Valkyrie. And trust me, at Ferrari, there is going to be plenty of opportunity and plenty of demand for a Ferrari Adrian Newey designed hypercar. So yeah, both of those are obviously amazing options. We know that Ferrari in the past have definitely offered Newey in 2014 an opportunity to go to the team. That is confirmed with a massive deal. You know, he kind of ummed and ahed quite a lot about that, but in the end stayed at Red Bull. But now, you know, Frederic Vasseur and also John Elkann, who's been very hands-on with the Ferrari race team in terms of even last weekend, he was at Imola with the WEC team, with their hypercar team. And of course, he was the mastermind getting Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari as well. So yeah, John Elkann with Frederic Vasseur and Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, they are definitely going to want to have Newey there. And also because Ferrari are expanding, you know, Aston Martin perhaps is a little bit different because they have Dan Fallows there, who was a disciple of Newey's. How would he feel with Newey kind of coming into the team? How would that fit with Dan Fallows? Because that was his big move, you know, he was in a lower level at Red Bull and Aston Martin is now his baby as the technical director. How that would work with kind of his ex-boss coming into his team, I don't know how that would go. But as for Ferrari, again, they have been hunting for personnel, they have been hunting for engineers, and obviously Newey would be the perfect hire. So yeah, plenty of options in terms of what I would like to see. I mean, you know, Newey's done all of the British teams, he's had so much success. Like Lewis Hamilton, I feel like Ferrari is the last box to tick. And I mean, what a combo that would be to work with Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc at Ferrari in the Scarlet Red, a Newey designed Ferrari. It has a ring to it, doesn't it? Now, with Newey out of the picture, what does all of this then mean for Red Bull? Because again, this is a team that is dominating on a level that we have never seen before in Formula One. I mean, again, most dominant car ever last year, 21 wins. They're going to dominate the next 2 years because, I mean, let's be honest, as much as Ferrari are pushing them and have made big strides, there is still a huge gap across a race distance between the likes of the Red Bull and the Ferrari and even the McLaren as well. You know, the likes of Aston Martin and Mercedes at this stage of the season, they're nowhere near Red Bull. So they have a comfortable advantage and are going to continue winning championships. They have Max Verstappen, a driver that is unbeatable at the moment, in the absolute prime of his career, driving as well as anyone has ever driven in Formula One history. He has a comfortable teammate as well that he's always going to beat. Checo with the car advantage is always able to grab those podiums now. He's really upped his game. So they're in such a comfortable spot to just carry on dominating as they have been dominating for the next year and a half. And yet, you know, Newey leaving is a significant, occurrence. There's no doubt about it. He was one of the pillars of the team all the way right from the beginning. And with how splintered and how fractured that organization is, again, with the Horner side, with Austria and Minslav, with Marco and Verstappen latching onto Marco as well, it does kind of call in question, I think, Horner's future more than anyone else, because I think the team is going to back, obviously, you know, Minslav was with the Austrian side, so he's the one that's going to have the say. I think Marco, with the fact that he has the support of Verstappen, that is huge, you know, to have the Verstappen camp behind him. And it's very clear, you know, Horner made a point actually to be kind of in charge of the Red Bull powertrains division. He wanted to make sure that he was kind of aligned with the 51% tie owners. But I do think that if anyone's going to go, it's probably going to be him. You know, Red Bull are going to try and spin this however they want to. if Adrian Newey was happy and he wants to win, he would just keep staying at Red Bull, and ultimately under Horner's watch, whatever else has happened outside of that, he has lost potentially Adrian Newey. Could that then mean that maybe Max Verstappen starts to also think about his future as well? If there's more kind of technical people that start to leave, like Pierre Vacher and things like that, could Max also then think about moving to the likes of Mercedes or Ferrari? Not necessarily for 2025, because there's no way that I think he's going to be doing that, but just for the future. All it takes is one domino, and Adrian Newey is a massive domino at that. Max Verstappen definitely has a lot of outs in his contract, and all it takes is that one domino for a big team like Red Bull to fall apart. Not necessarily that they're going to become a backmarker or something, but just to lose those key people, the driver, the designer, the principal, things like that. So yeah, they're very interesting times for Red Bull ahead. Let's not forget that every single era of domination comes to an end. Ferrari came to an end, Mercedes has come to an end. As unbeatable as Red Bull look now, their time is coming as well. We don't know how long they're going to continue to dominate for, but also you have to look ahead at 2026 and the fact that, we are now moving not into an aero regulation period, but to another engine era of Formula One, with a massive, massive engine shakeup, and Red Bull building their own powertrain for the very first time in association with Ford. That leaves a lot of uncertainty. And also for Newey, I think there is less desire, because he is an aero man. There's no doubt about it. He didn't like in 2014 that it became a bit of an engine formula. It's going to go back to an engine formula in 2026. So yeah, all of these things I think are not good news for Red Bull, but success can paper over a lot of cracks. And at the moment, Red Bull are having a level of success that we have never seen before. And I'm sure that they have a structure to accommodate a big figure like Newey leaving. But it's all about the knock-on effect. What other people might be leaving? Could that lead to Max leaving as well? So yeah, these are the big questions that are going to be answered, not necessarily in 2024 or 2025, but certainly in 2026. Well, there you have it. If you did enjoy this video and want to support the channel, then don't forget to subscribe. That would be massively appreciated. And as always, let me know all of your thoughts in the comments box below, and I'll see you in the next one.